Hello, good afternoon, everyone. So after hearing the previous session, I think one thing that I see across different supply chain conferences nowadays that, one thing that is very certain is the uncertainty, right? Everywhere, everywhere, we are now talking about uncertainty, unpredictability in the world of supply chain. So that means I think the time has come wherein all of us have to accept that uncertainty is a part of our day-to-day life. Let's not uh, call it uncertainty. So that unpredictable future is the way to go. That's the reality. My name is Dhritiman. As Sanjay ji has mentioned, I represent Ingram Micro. Ingram Micro is a global distributor and solution service providers for IT goods and services. We were actually world number one. Today we are world number two because one of our competitor merged with another company. They became number one in terms of revenue. Um, uh, so what we do actually, we don't manufacture anything. So you can consider me the odd man out in this particular group. I don't represent a manufacturing organization, but by the virtue of being a global distributor, we work with around 350 plus odd OEMs who are into manufacturing of IT goods. So, which means that the topic that we are going to discuss, there is 350 times the complexity that we face in our supply chain because of the complexities that our OEM partners are facing today, right? So that way possibly Charu has chosen me to be the moderator of this group. And I'm very lucky to have some fantastic people in my group, in my panel. So the way we want to run this session is we will have two questions for each of our panel members. And after that, before coming to question number 3, if time permits, we will come to you. So for us, you are more important than our third question. So we will take your questions after a round of 2 questions. And then if time is there, we'll go to the third one. So, before coming to our questions, if you, let me share certain data that why this particular topic is important. As we said, I mean, today that uncertainty is certain. Today that unpredictability is the actual reality. So I think for manufacturing leaders, it's very difficult. It has become difficult. And they cannot say it's difficult. That's the irony. It is difficult, but within the organization, they cannot say it's difficult because organization will say that is why you have been hired to handle this difficulty, right? So the term that volatility we always talk about. So this volatility has become a structural thing in the supply chain domain nowadays. It's not occasional, right? So there was a survey that was conducted by this organization called Lean DNA, and mainly for the manufacturing industry, and they found that around 47% reported 10% or more of their annual revenues lost or put at risk directly due to supply chain disruption. So which means that possibly when you are budgeting next time, you need to budget for the disruption also, right? And nearly 2/3 of the respondents, around 64%, say that they spend 10% or more of the total manufacturing budget for reacting to disruption through customer wants something very urgently, so you need to pay some premium freight to the customer, or there is a sourcing that is needed urgently, an alternate source who will be charging you more compared to a regular source. So what we are saying is that is the new baseline for all of us in this industry. It's not an exception anymore, right? So as supply chain leaders, as manufacturing leaders, we need to consider that as a part of our long-term strategy, even the tactical strategy that we make, that anything might happen. So that uncertainty has to be built into our decision making. world is talking about nearshoring and then reshoring and all those concepts, right? That it's beyond China. For Indian manufacturing companies, they are saying you need to think beyond China. So there was again a global survey that was conducted by Bain and Company, and then they did, surveyed around 166 CEOs and COOs of some of the large companies. There again, around 81% say that they plan to bring supply chain closer to the market, right? This particular percentage was around 63% last time they did this survey, and now it is 81%. They say that they want to bring it closer to the customer, closer to the market. Why? Because you need to respond to a disruption, respond to an uncertainty quickly, right? The third thing, let's look into what's happening in India. Very, very India specific, some data that I do have. Government has got this PLI scheme. All of you are aware of. There's a lot of focus on the PLI scheme now. So government has an outlay of about 2 lakh crore into the PLI scheme. Out of which there has been a committed investment of around 2.16 lakh crore already by December 2025. Now, all this investment, what it is doing, the investment has generated around 20 lakh crore rupees into incremental production and sales. And it has also created around 14 lakh new jobs. So that means the game has already started, it's happening. So government initiative has already started showing the results in terms of creating more jobs as well as increasing the revenue. So that means we are sure that these government policies, initiatives will continue in the near future. So that means for the production leaders, for the manufacturing leaders, they should see this as an opportunity. Like obviously the Make in India initiative is also in a big way that has been taken by the government. And there is real money that is getting spent in that direction. So that's a good news for all of us. Again, if you look at the smart factory, right, there has been increased investment in the smart factory segment. So there are surveys in this particular area which says that at a global level, the investment has been more than 100 billion USD. That's a huge amount. So now we were talking with one of our friends in the panel, and then I think during the course of the discussion, I will also request him to give some more clarity to all of you that certain segments in our industry which otherwise the general perspective is that that industry is not doing so good. It's very labor intensive, labor is not available. But because of labor non-availability, sometimes there is a benefit that certain industries are getting. And possibly when we talk about smart and digital world, that is one of the area which is getting that benefit, right? We will talk on that particular subject. So I think the question before all of us is that, the question is not that whether we need to change or not. The change is already there. What is important? Have you accepted the change as a part of your day-to-day activities, day-to-day decision making? As supply chain leaders and manufacturing leaders, gone are those days wherein you are getting surprised when some disruption is happening. You don't have that opportunity to get surprised. You have to enable yourselves to respond to this disruption as a regular call of your duty. So with that thought, we will start our session. So let me take my seat. Thank you, sir. Yeah, so I will request all our panel speakers to introduce themselves when they are responding to the question. So first I will come to Vinay. Vinay, I think we were having a very detailed discussion on this particular topic, and I would request you to give your perspective, just explain a bit. So we were talking about the textile mills in Indore. So Vinay, these textile mills were actually once upon a time, they were at the center of the city's economy, right? But uh, many companies could not able to keep up that pace. And now there is a personal connection that you do have with that particular story. What does it tell us about how factories need to keep reinventing themselves to have a successful future?
First of all, thank you for inviting me on this panel. This subject is really close to my heart because I come from Indore. I'm Vinay Chauhan. I'm working with Bridgestone. Bridgestone is one of the leading tire manufacturers in the world. I've been with them for almost 26 years now. I was leading the production planning control function for 6 years, then moved on to work on logistics and supply chain, and eventually right now I'm looking into procurement operations. So coming to the topic over here, how many of you have heard about Indore? Did you ever? Okay, so quite some time. So Indore right now is popular because it has won the #1 position in the Swachh Bharat mission, and it maintained that lead for almost 7 years continuously before it was promoted to the Super League. But what people don't know about Indore is that just 2 years back, when the survey was done for the Swachh Bharat mission, it was ranked 144 or 145. And within 2 to 3 years, it transformed itself. Now, why it had such a poor ranking? Some of that causal relationship goes to the textile mills also. In the start of the 20th century, the textile mills were set up in Indore. And eventually by the mid of the 20th century, there were 7 textile mills. And as a consequence, it attracted a lot of workers from nearby locations. In fact, my own grandfather moved from UP to Indore to work in one of the textile mills. So you can imagine, like, at that point of time, there were employment for almost 20,000 people, 25,000 people, plus the ecosystem of the suppliers and all those stuff around them. But eventually, with the passage of time, the technology changed, the competition changed, the cost structure changed, and the demand changed. However, for some reason, these textile industries could not transform themselves with those changes. As a consequence, they had old technology, they had financial distress, they had operational troubles, they had labor union problems subsequently because of all this stuff, and one by one, all these textile mills shut shop. Now imagine a situation when you have 25,000 people employed and suddenly they lose their source of income. What happens to their children? How do they pursue their education? And more than the education, the purpose of what they want to do in life. So with that distress situation, what happened was these pockets of the city where these workers were living around, they saw tremendous economic decline. And there were areas where there were a lot of infightings and antisocial elements was there. It was not a good and clean environment to live over there. So from that background, Indore then subsequently transformed. And the transformation is also amazing because it's not about AI all the way. It was about ownership. It was about, to some extent, digitalization. And it was about managing the process end-to-end quite well. So what is the lesson and why this subject is close to my heart is the industries of today, if they are not gearing up for tomorrow, for the future, they may not have a future. And especially being in India, it's all the more concerning because in the past, the business may have been lost to different state or different city, but now the business may go to different country. And given the fact that India is a young country, we cannot afford to lose business. So it becomes very important that all of us sit down together, brainstorm, and be aware of what's changing and what we need to do in terms of the industry, in terms of making ourselves future ready so that the implications does not stop at the factory, but also goes into the society and the country as well. So that's the background I wanted to bring before we start the session.
That's an amazing, amazing input. The last sentence that you have mentioned is that when you make certain decisions for your organization, sometimes you impact the larger society also. So I think from a large picture point of view, when we are talking about future, right, it is very important that we see the impact, because for a short-term period, you might be thinking, well, I'm just making a decision for my organization, but in long-term point of view, the societal impact today or tomorrow is going to impact your organization as well, right? Very, very good thought. Thank you so much. I'll come, Siddharth, to you. Uh, I think your organization handles quite a lot of different types of sectors, right? You supply to automotive, power, personal care, etc. So from a manufacturing point of view, it has to be very flexible. So how do you keep that flexibility so that you know, keep up to the promise to your customers from these different types of sectors and different industries?
Sure. Thanks, Dhritiman. Good morning, everybody. So, brief introduction. My name is Siddharth, and I come with a pure operations and supply chain background for over 16 years now. While I am presently with Petro, which is a Shell member company, just prior to this, I was with Tata Consumer Products, where I was responsible for planning for the packaged foods business, which is a large, fairly large volume business on Tata Salt, a brand that you would know of, and very many innovations that we would do around packaged foods. So coming specific to the question around Petro, the portfolio of products that we have is quite large, and as Dhritiman rightly pointed out, there are a lot of sectors that we service to. So power sector being one, pharma, food, tire industry, rubbers. We also have many other smaller businesses in which we support. Even agri is one part of it. So typically how the supply chain and the back end plays out is when you have a complex portfolio, and when each of the sectors or the business sites have different type of service demands, you segment it in such a way that the entire supply chain design is adaptive to that, right? So there is, for example, if I have power, and it will have a typical standard industrial demand that will be a baseline month on month. But then if I talk about, let's say, personal care or a pharma, the demand may keep fluctuating month on month, and it is more volatile also because in a B2B space, you are doing very customized and niche production for them. So when you operate it, you operate with a product family principle and not look at the sector or not look at which product you're talking about, but the family of products which demand a certain type of service level and what kind of agility hence required on them. So, so it's a combination of base capacities around relatively stable demand ones, where you can operate with more certainty. And in cases of niche, we operate on higher capacities, which means we work on lower capacity utilization so that we are able to react faster, at least in terms of capacity. And then you have buffers, which somebody may call resilience, but those buffers are there for us to operate or survive. And of course, to be able to deliver with that agility with the volatile demand, you need a very strong collaboration mechanism between all the departments in the company. So while customer service may lead from the front, but then operations, quality, materials, all of them play a very strong role. So we are, for these segments, while we have the monthly SNOP planning process, etc., we do have weekly connects, but then on every single day, looking at what my order inflow for the day is, we also decide what will be the production for today and tomorrow. So it's a combination of make to stock, where there are few categories where you have these base and you can do predictable supplies. But then a large part of the portfolio is serviced directly from our plants, which operates on make to order, and we may be turning around those orders anywhere between 8 hours to 48 hours. So that is the kind of target with which we operate on. And with the way of working, having been streamlined for years together, I think we have developed a mastery over it. We are not looking at copying an industry purely for the sake of how they do best, or an FMCG practice may not be ideally suited for us. So we are going very niche based on how it has been working for us. So that's in brief. Yeah.
That's great. That's great. I think one of the point that you have mentioned specifically on the importance of having a buffer, right? I think that's again industry shift what we are observing from a very lean manufacturing concept to understanding the importance of having some buffer, right? Because that's the new requirement, as we are saying that the disruption is a part and process of the way the world is operating today. So it's very important that you do a proper measurement, but built into that particular buffer, right?
So add on to that, so on the material side, almost 90% of the raw materials that we use are imported. And you have the Red Seas and the Hormuz of the world which keep disrupting. And in the ocean space specifically, if you see every year, we have some or the other disruption which makes it a havoc for 2 to 3 months. So it's cyclical. So we have learned from that. And while we monitor inventory closely, but then we wouldn't want to go or err on the wrong side of service. That's how the buffer.
So previously I used to think that Red Sea means it's a red color water, but then when people started relating that we are bleeding, our bottom line is bleeding, now I understand that it's because of that Red Sea, right? Yeah. So, yeah, Amit. Sorry, not Amit. I will come to you. Yeah. Yeah, so Nikul, you represent again a very different type of an industry. So your business depends on the firm-linked raw materials and which has a seasonal demand. So for you, it might be very, difficult to design your manufacturing and logistics to, absorb the seasonal changes, the weather-driven volatility, etc. So how do you handle that? Can you please explain it to us?
Sure. Hello. I'm Nikul. I'm part of the Godrej Agrovet group. This group company have the 6 different companies into it, so we call it ourselves a conglomerate. And over a 1.5 decades of the experience that have given in the supply chain manufacturing space, different industries behave differently. The one which I am representing today is Godrej Agrovet. We are mainly dependent on the 2 factors, which I will say. One is our company's factors, and one is from the external factor. External factors are equally important for this industry. Reason being, it drives this economy of the India. So in agri space, you have, we usually call in Godrej Agrovet, it depends on 3 space. One is Godrej family, of course. The second one is government, and third one is God. If God is not happy with us, our industry will go for a toss. The rain and monsoons. Some of the CEO really pray on the day that I should have a hotline with the God, because I need the rain on one day so that there's a weed can come up. So my chemical goes there and then farmer sprays on the field. The other CEO will be spreading, if not the sufficient rain, then there will be no green grass, so my animal feed can be get sold in the market. So everybody wants a hotline, but for a different purpose. And then here comes the manufacturing and supply chain like us, who want to serve all these CEOs and their demand and catalyst, and then make them sure that they achieve their AOP targets. Of course, everybody wants the little pie of the business from their science, and then there comes up the variabilities, which comes from external and imported force. The one classic example I would like to share, I'll not make which is theoretical, but I'll give a practical example which I faced over 5 years with the agro industry. There was one supplier in US who was supplying the vitamins for the animal nutrition business. Now that happens that Trump is not very happy with the flow which India is managing, so he make the Iran fees over there. And the second day onwards, he said, I will come back after 90 days, then only will be a sustainability happen. Your supply will be restored after 90 days only. And the stock is almost 35 days, which we have. Now, how to deal with such situations when your manufacturing lines gonna be shut in next 35 days because you don't have the vitamins, which is a key ingredient for animal nutrition. And the other side, the CEO wants to make most of the opportunity because many of the competitor doesn't have that material. Now that comes a typical way where agility and resilience plays a role. So instead of looking at the supplier which won there, we started building the flexibility within the organizations, because that's how the big corporates or big companies works out and find out the synergies within the organization. So this is one way which we started looking, and we found that there are key raw materials for that making the vitamins we are available within the organization, and can we set up a nano plant so that our productions and daily capacity can be met. So this one way of the flexibility which we create to manage such kind of uncertainty. Of course, few are there like weathers and it, which is not in our control. But the sensing early signals are helping us to build more agile supply chain and more agile factory combinations. So we are building our this kind of the various agilities in the three space. One space is on making our supplier more comprehensive, more complex, increasing our breadth and length over the suppliers. So rather than only having a good bunch of suppliers, we are also developing the second tier, third tier suppliers, because agri industries, everywhere you get suppliers, but they are not able to deal the quality products. So bring them up to that level that they can be your supply partners and partner in the business, just only looking as a price point of view thing. Second thing which we are building is, instead of having mega factories, since our business operates in 6 different domains, like one is animal nutrition, then we are into oil palm plantations and then crude oil palm productions. Then we also are into frozen snacks under the brand name of Godrej Gummies and RGGs, and then we have agrochemicals. So all this now we are putting in the single umbrellas, that how we can make the synergies, and then all suppliers are supplying to each of these businesses, so that we have a robust pipelines over there. Second, the factories which we are operating on the individual silos and mega factories, now we are segregating, decentralizing it based on the requirement. So all 6 companies should operate like a startup, but they should think as a bigger goal which Godrej put together for all of us to achieve. And third one on the manpower, which is the most important pillar which comes in manufacturing supply chain. AI helps them, but intelligence still plays a greater role in India for making supply chain more agile and more coherent to the overall structure. So there's 3 pillars which we are currently working, and we are trying to get all the variables juggled together to deliver the results which we are expecting. Thank you.
Fantastic, Nikul. Thank you so much for explaining that. So apart from the weather, you also have internal and within the company challenges of handling different leaders, right? Yeah. Yes, Amit, Devanand of our group. So coming to you. He looks like Devanand, right?
That's just what we said. He's our panelist. Panel ka Devanand is the Amit here.
So Amit, we were talking about on this particular topic that, digitization, flexible operations have made a real difference in handling disruptions based on your own experience. So can you share with us one particular example wherein the use of data or digital tools helped your team make a faster and a more better, efficient decision?
Yeah, sure. So thank you first of all, Celerity, for this opportunity. I'm Amit Vadalkar, 26 years in professional company. John Deere is my first love.
He doesn't look like, right? 26 years.
Yeah. I'm responsible for, thank you ma'am. I'm responsible for aftermarket operations for Asia, Africa and Australia. So wherever a John Deere product is sold, we work to ensure that the machines are running 24/7, because we work for the farmer who produces food for 9 billion population of the world. So the vision and the mission that John Deere works with is to feed the 9 billion population of the world in the most efficient way we can. So sustainability is also a part of one of our goal. Now let me put some glamour to the warehouse operation, and if any one of you are working for warehouse, then let me throw you some data. And Vinay, you started with Indore, and I'm starting my response with Indore. In Indore, we had in 2022 set up our first modern warehouse in the John Deere world. So India and Indore gets the credit of having the first IT modernized warehouse in John Deere world. And it works on SAP S4 HANA. So those who have operated on SAP, then an S4, then it's a real data mining that happens on the screen. We have touch screen monitors in the warehouse. It's a wireless facility and it's run with 100% RF guns. Okay, now can you imagine a warehouse working for farmers having state-of-the-art technology, and that's what we want to offer to the farmers. And I'll also throw you some numbers. When I entered this industry as a GET in 2000, tractor industry was like 2 lakh tractors, 2.5 lakh tractors per annum. 2026-27, we are aiming for 10.5 lakh tractors. 1 million tractors will be sold in India, and the farmers are buying it because farmers are getting that capacity to mechanize their farms. Now coming to your question on digitalization and how it is helping us address spikes or disruption. So my day starts with data. So warehouses were, typically looked at storage space that keeps inventory and they respond to an order. We have changed that way of working. So logistic delays is part of disruption. Inventory imbalance is a part of disruption. Manpower not available on a particular day is a part of disruption. And we are handling that with data. So we have built an end-to-end digital thread within our warehouse. So it starts with inbound. We know what's available at the main gate. We have dashboards available in each and every stage of our operations. So what happens is when I get the first order bank and when we distribute this to the pickers, the orders are scanned location-wise across all the state, and a trigger goes to my logistic supervisor that this many trucks will be required at the end of the day. So we started working at 8 o'clock already for what's going to come in at 4 p.m. So that's data. Come to pickers. So we have people, and people is our strength. Technology is just an enabler. So we have people with different skill sets. They pick these parts from the racks. So it's a very, I would say, tough job because you have hundreds of orders and you go to each aisle. It may be on level A or it may be on level E. You pick parts and you have a task to be completed, so you have a picker efficiency. Our data analytics distributes this order as per the picker available on that day, as per his historical efficiency, to have the best serpentine part into the aisle that gives me the best outcome. So that's on the picking. And then when you come to pack benches where we pack all the parts, then we have a staging area where we keep all the boxes. So typical warehouse setup you can imagine. And then you have logistics service providers. They have their trucks on the docks. Now this entire chain, my RF gun is like a magic wand. It scans every single stage of picking, packing, staging to hand over to the logistics service provider. On a dashboard, my supervisor sitting probably 500 meters from the warehouse can see which area is stuck, where is the attention required, which area is red, which area is green. He can shift people, he can manage resources, he can even say, today I don't need 5 trucks, actually I need 8 trucks. So everything is on a dashboard. So the warehouse team working inside never ever have experienced a thing called disruption or a spike or a demand because technology is enabling us. So what I would say is a normal operation, you in a historical period, you are looking out for the problem and then solving it. Technology and data is actually telling you in advance where the problem is. You are only searching for the right solution. So that's the power of data that we are using every day. So it's a great integration of inventory, order flow, resource, logistics, and your outbound performance put inside a single thread which you can watch every minute. So from days to hours to minutes is what I often use as a one tagline for digitalization. So whether it's decision, whether it's delivery, or whether it's responsiveness, days to hours to minutes.
Awesome. I'm jealous of you. Your current is my future. So now I will come to you for my second question, and this question now you need to take to my future, that is your future. So what does the future looks for you in that case, if you're already that much advanced in your current scenario? So please touch upon planning, inventory positioning, supplier collaboration, and operating models put together. What are some of the discussions that you are having in terms of your future? How it will look like? Can you give us some sort of visibility so that I can plan better?
Yeah, sure. Again, everybody gives a lot of focus on manufacturing factories. We talk about smart factories. We have a concept called SCW, Smart Connected Warehouse. So some of the examples they have already shared is part of our Smart Connected Warehouse strategy. I think the future is all about predictive intelligence. And I'll give you 2-3 examples of how we are looking at the future. We talked about data, we talked about dashboards. 2 months back, one of our shop floor supervisor built a AI agent which is autonomous. It interacts with 3 different screens and data sources, because as I have number of orders, I have number of dealers. So I have to find out whether a dealer order is completed so that the truck can start, correct? Because a farmer or a customer is waiting for my part. So instead of a person downloading a data, accessing system, we said an AI agent will do that. And it's actually a reality. And why I'm saying a outbound supervisor did it, he's a 26-year-old guy having only 4 years of experience. And what we said was we'll work on 3 pillars: digital dexterity, digital thread, and digital analytics. Dexterity means every single person in my organization needs to understand digitalization and AI, because then they will innovate and they will bring solution. And once you have a digital thread, you can see end-to-end what's happening in your supply chain, in your operations, in your inventory. And then analytics is just play around the data that is available. So AI agent, as I gave, is just the start. We have got 2 projects deployed, 3 are in pipeline, 8 are already probably use case proposed for next year. So I think I had a question in the last panel that somebody was asking, do you use AI in supply chain? I'm saying I'm using AI in operations already. But the future of warehouse operation, I see three aspects. 1, from historical reporting to predictive intelligence, correct? So you don't report after the incidents has happened. So the smart connected future operations means I can see data, I can read the weak signal, I analyze, and I have a AI recommendation available, but a human will take decision. Predictive intelligence. Second, from I would say fixed manufacturing or operations to I would say dynamic operations. So where I say the inventory has to be dynamic, my manpower has to be dynamic, and my response also have to be dynamic. So that's a second aspect of the future of warehouse operation. Third, I would say is not only human execution, human AI collaboration. And I want to spend some more time on this aspect because there's a lot of concern and worry about will AI take our jobs. And a standard answer that's running around the internet is AI will not take your job, somebody who knows AI will take your job. I'm saying, and many in my organization are very, very firm believer that it will be a human-led transformation with AI enabling it. So human are important and human will continue to play an important role. And I see 4 aspects of AI that we are going to use: assistive AI, augmentative AI, automation AI, and autonomous AI. And you have to decide with your leadership vision whether you want to go to autonomous or you want to be at assistive. So if you are using assistive and augmentative, a human is in loop. A human reviews the data and gives decision. And you Many of you have heard Ford has recruited engineers back into the setup after they decided to put AI into the vision camera system and some faulty cars went outside in the market. So I think that's a wrong example of putting AI. Okay, so human is very, very important. So I would say human AI collaboration is the third aspect of the future operations. So I would say a future operation is where supply chain is predicted, inventory is smartly managed, and decisions are increasingly autonomous with people at the core.
Amazing, superb. I think you have touched upon on that AI aspect because that has been the talk of the hour, and then I see some of the booths outside also related to AI. And you are right, this question keeps on coming up in every forum, saying that whether AI will take my job, and the straightforward answer, it will not take your job. But then you put a completely detailed perspective into it. Thanks for sharing that. I will now come to Nikul. Now, Nikul, you have worked in different industries in the past, cement, FMCG, and then now you are into agribusiness. Now, based on your past experiences, how do you see the difference here in your current role in terms of building a flexible and future-ready factory? Because possibly cement FMCG would have been a little bit better predictable. Nothing is completely predictable as such, but comparatively possibly better with better market assessment, So how do you see that difference here, and how do you handle that challenge here?
Dhritiman, this question is very core to my heart because this just and summarize my experience which I had over the 4 industries till now. Cement industry is a different ball game. Their volume plays the major role, and logistics sits as a core. Planning comes second, logistics comes first because that translated to a 30% of their cost of goods. Where comes the FMCG, there the customer becomes a god. So there you have to be very, very agile in terms of supply chain planning and transformation, the customer requirement. The demand remains a little bit here and there. There's a transition happens, seasonality comes, factors happens. But your raw material availability is almost constant. But in cement, there is no product differentiation. It's all that if the material is available, it gets sold. Otherwise, you lose the market. When it comes to agri-chemical, there here, or agri sector at large, here the things change both sides. The demand is also variable, the supply quality or the raw material quality is also be changing, and your supply chain is also evolving. So now this becomes whatever you learn, you have to learn from each of these industries and apply it in agri industry. If success in agri industry, then it will work in every industry. That's how I take it as my experience in agri industry. So one thing which I have delivered when I started this role, the first thing I said, why not have the demand forecasting models of FMCG clubbed with the agility of the cement, and then they put the perspective of Maersk or shipping lines so that everything becomes good for me in this industry. But that it doesn't work like that, because then third factors comes up, that some policies which have designed by the government, which translates your supply chain entirely. Like one was, you cannot, so we deal in the frozen snacks, where we transfer live birds across the farms to our factories. And then that rule says that you cannot transfer bird in the daylight, because it's harmful for the birds in transit in the heat. Now, you thought that I'll plant everything and I'll get the birds in early morning, 6 o'clock, it will be there in my factory. But this rule says that you can't do that. Then second phase comes at, what are the policies, norms which I have? Now I have to couple that with the availability and the synergies which I exist right now. So for agri-chemical, the stability becomes more given to you, because you don't have much playbook around it, because it's been defined already by governments and bill. But what comes is innovating within the available capability. So one example which I came on top of my mind is using our milk. So we have a dairy business in South India. The milk farmers, which gives us a raw milk to process into a value-added products for our factories, we use them as our transporter as well. They become the entire ecosystem in our dairy businesses. So the morning, and then this helped us to achieve our EV transformation. We asked this transformer to buy EV. We supported from our Godrej capital to them as a loan. They purchase it. Now they are delivering milk using this EV in the morning. In afternoon, the same EV, after 4 hours of recharge at our milk collection center, they go for a vegetable purchasement. They do it in the sales, and then evening again they are delivering to us in the chilling center. So the regular transferees are not very happy with the EV transformations or investing in EV. But these guys have helped us to achieve our EV transformation over there. It helped us to get the better cost and the better agility, because they become the eyes for us on the ground, whether milk will come, not come, whether the price of milk go up or down, because that depends on the demand and supply. And second, the same time, it also helps us to achieve sustainability goals which we have put for ourselves, because we have moved from a greener way of transporting the milks. That's one example. Second example was, which comes in top of mind, the oil palm plantation, where we have one of the largest, the contracted model for growing the oil palm trees. We procure the fruits from them, and then we crush in our factory and put in the crude oils. Now this is the same way, since it's related to agriculture and a lot of regulations comes up. But there we have put one fact that you, as a cohesion, put one mandal. Mandal is basically a collection of farmers who then brings fruit and get it into a factory. We asked them to, why don't you become our transporter? We have a lot of CNG producing again. We'll give you a fuel for half rate, which we are getting in market, and you invest in the truck. They invest in the hydraulic truck. So hydraulic trucks is basically, it's like just opens up there and then it unload the material. So instead of wasting time of 45 minutes per hour for 12-ton truck to unload, the 10 minutes, this investment and the economy which we have created help us to reduce the time of fruit arrival, because we become sustainable and accurate. I know this transporter is gonna go in farm in morning 4 o'clock, harvest the fruits, bring it to the factory by 11. So it's a become predictable model rather than putting any AI. And second, then it becomes a model in terms of we are saving times on unloading part as well, because the hydraulic truck compared to the earlier full body trucks where we have to unload a single run. This has helped me to plan my fruit crush at the factory. So that become my future ready model, that whenever I need a fruit, I have to just loop in this ecosystem, get this model right, and then inform him through the digital connected system. He will bring the material, I'll crush the fruit, and I'll deliver to my customer. So we are able to deliver R2S, which is called run to speed in the factory, that whatever machine is designed for running in capacity of, say, so suppose 100 kg per hour, we are able to do it at 95, 98 kg per hour with this kind of a model. So that becomes the efficiency improvement and then agility to change as the customer demand is changed. So there's two examples from the agri industry I would like to quote here.
Very good, interesting. I think there is a great example of how do you utilize your suppliers to add value to your own supply chain, right? That's a fantastic example. And I think that also points out that beyond AI also human innovation is actually more important than that, right? Yeah, so Siddharth, coming to you, and I will request you to limit your answer within 2 to 3 minutes max. Based on your past experience of working in different industries, so can you share some specific examples wherein you utilized a tighter integration between your planning and distribution, and something that helped you respond faster to regional demand spikes? Because in India, it's not only the country-wise spike, region-wise, there are different demand spike that we experience. And obviously from a disruption in the supply side. Can you share some examples from your past experiences?
Sure. So I think in the earlier panel also I was hearing a discussion around external resilience to external factors. People spoke about COVID, and then there are other many major external events which they have faced. I think in my career, whatever I have experienced, to give something new for the audience, I think it was more of an internal story that I would want to comment on. And this was an internal disruption. So when I was with Tata Consumer Products, which was largely a tea and salt company known across for their major part of the portfolio, I was there in supply chain looking at planning, and we had a new management coming in, a new strategy. basically the company wanted to stand among the top FMCG players in the world and not be seen merely as a tea and salt company. So what do? You have to innovate and you have to add a portfolio which is suitable for the consumer, look for things which consumer is looking for, and hence comes the innovation program. So you have to, for a company which has been selling only tea and salt for years together, suddenly you want an innovation program which can fire in such a way that you have an ambition to launch 100 SKUs in a year. So just imagine on a base, if you have 500 on the base and the entire supply chain is running on it, suddenly comes a year where the innovation funnel has become so big and the strategy is to launch all of them through the year and then service the market, go through the entire cycle of whether something works, something does not, and then also see to it that we are building for the future as well. So it was an internal disruption, and we were doing at that point of time about 5 to 6 new product launches in a year. But then the organization of innovation and the R&D team, the setup, everything became so wide that suddenly in a year we had a very big program. How do you adapt to it? Because the processes are not set. So what we did, and we learned, so we got a lot of support also from a senior management in terms of how you do it, drive the whole thing, in terms of what cadences people will meet, at what time people will get visibility of the upcoming funnel, so that there is some time to prepare for. And the biggest part is on the factory setup, how do you enable? Because you need capacities, you are trying to get into some new category altogether, which you have not experienced. And how do you set up? How do you figure out what machinery, what technicality is required, which is the best thing to do, what capacity I should plan? So all of these decisions were really tough. So the approach that we took was, let's look for strengths that the industry already has. And if we have a portfolio of products that we want to get into, look for people who are already doing it. And in case competition has a similar product profile, look for third-party manufacturers or people who are operating on 2P model and have expertise in it. So go with them and start manufacturing, set up your quality standards and your product expectations, start manufacturing, observe how the business is picking up, and with your reviews, you decide when do you want to really scale up and now think of setting up a factory on your own. So that was the approach on which the manufacturing infrastructure was set up. I have seen categories where we have started with courier supplies across the country from one factory. You know, a category which is getting launched at a 20, 30 tons and a monthly volume to be supplied across 43 CFAs. So 43 CFAs because the salt and tea volumes are really huge. We were doing like 15 lakh tons a year kind of a volume. So, and on that scale, you are launching products like this, which are 30 tons across the business. We launched a saffron, which was not even 30 kgs across the business. So the complexity in this was huge. So this is where we started. We started with a mix. We started with couriers. We started upgrading month on month, looking at how the volume is scaling up. And the review mechanisms also were set in such a way that, okay, you are fueling in so much of innovation into the company. Can it sustain? So actually, it should not. You can't just keep adding. You have to keep culling out also. So every quarter, we would have a review of all the launches that were done and how the performance was. And every quarter, we would also kill some of them and taking those hard calls on removing. So that was organization-wide transformation in the way we dealt with the innovation agenda. And I have some beautiful examples, not to go into detail because of time, but there's a category of Tata Sampann in which we launched a dry fruits business. Over 3 years of time, the dry fruit business started from, I have seen a volume of 14 tons a month, and it went up to 500 crores annual run rate. So you can just imagine within 3 years. We launched a category called cold pressed oils, which we did not have any knowledge of. We started with factories in South and we started with factories in Rajasthan. And that business again clocking a run rate of 600 crores in 2 years. So this is an internal disruption. Were we prepared for it? Not really, but we went through it, and of course the role of planning and distribution there can only be questioned. We were there every time, talking very closely with the factories, very closely with the senior management as well, and with the sales team on how the tractions are and how we should be reacting. So that is my experience on.
Great, great. Thank you so much. I think one specific takeaway from what you have explained is, we are talking about the uncertainty, and one of the solution that you have is instead of putting in your own assets, can you utilize the third-party manufacturing opportunities before scaling it up? So that's a very good point, good example that you've given. Yeah, Vinay, coming to you, you'll have to compensate for the time now with a quick response. So from an indirect procurement lens, if you can quickly share us when a supply chain or a factory needs to pivot quickly, what are the key bottlenecks that it faces?
Yeah, so I think from the indirect perspective, before I talk about indirect, let's ask what do we expect from the future factory? And we need to look at the macro environment which exists right now. The current situation is that the traditional manufacturers, the leaders, they are facing stiff competition from the emerging manufacturers. And this competition is basically on the price point. So now the challenge for the leaders is they need to maintain the technology, they need to maintain the quality, they need to maintain the performance and safety of the tire, but they also need to compete on the price point. How can the future factory help them in achieving both these goals? So what we will need to do is, first of all, look at the process and look at from the fresh lens. Go to the drawing board and look each item by magnifying glass and see what we are doing right, what can be changed in terms of the tools and technology available. And the biggest thing you need to ask is, do you want to use the same technology or you want to change the technology? Do you want to use the same suppliers or you want to change the suppliers? And that, I think, from the indirect perspective is the biggest focus area, that you have to reduce the dependencies. While the industry is becoming more commoditized, how can your supplier remain monopoly? So you need to focus upon taking out the proprietary systems. You need to take out the single source suppliers. You need to take out the suppliers which are taking long lead times, and do everything in such a way that when you are trying to go into a contract with them, look at the long-term implications of the contract with them. Take the example of ERP. Once the ERP gets embedded in the system, it's very difficult to change it. And the situation becomes all the more critical when you do automation or you deploy PLC. At this point of time, a lot of these solutions are proprietary solutions. So you don't buy an equipment, you buy a system. You buy hardware, you buy software, you buy applications, you buy maintenance services from them, and then you buy the spare parts. At some point of time, you cannot say that because the spare part is very expensive, I can change the system. So upfront, you will have to decide which solution provider you need to go with. Either you engage with them on the price point, discuss and clarify how the price will go, or you try to nurture the organization or the supplier base in such a way that you have got more open architecture available so that you can swing around very easily. So that's the important pivot for us in indirect procurement.
Amazing, amazing. Good explanation of that. So I've got very little time left. I'm sure now Sanjay ji is actually working. So I'll just take possibly 1 to 2 questions from you because that's most important for us. One question only. Depends on how quickly they respond.
Sure. One and a half minute now. Yeah. One question, quick one. Yes, please go ahead, sir.
Yes. Can we have the mic, please?
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. Working? Thanks. My question is, when do we start the use of 3D printing technology in India? I mean, that can help many times, I believe.
So what technology you said?
3D printing.
I'll start, and if somebody wants to add.
Especially when, like disasters take place or something is urgent, so that equipment can be transported and it can be used at the location and portable.
So we did assess this for service parts a lot because you have to support a machine for 15, 20 years and sometimes you don't get the original supplier. But frankly speaking, my honest answer is the cost piece of that and the feasibility to manufacture every single automotive item through the 3D printing is still a limitation, and definitely if you invest in that technology, then the volume have to be there. And for our kind of business, we haven't seen the feasibility. So that's my short answer for that.
Any other input?
Yeah. So I'll give the we have not used it, but our sister company have already started it. The Godrej property, I already have built one villa through 3D printing. So it depends on how niche you are in this market and how critical that spare part or that particular object is for you. Depending on that, 3D printing is already in place.
Especially for the critical inputs, critical parts, you know, like for some equipment not working or something, so you cannot have a slack period of say 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
Today's world.
So that's what I said. If it's very niche, people will ready to pay for it. Correct. And that's for example, the lead time items, you get local suppliers in India as well who manufacture exactly the same casting. So we are using them rather than investing in 3D printing. But somebody which is not there in India, you want urgent basis, you will invest in the 3D and then get that cost recovered.
My other point is, suggestion is,
I think the time is up.
Yeah, we can't take so much time for everybody. So
Time is up.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your question and thanks everyone for being so attentive.
yep.
Thanks to the panel speakers.